Thank you for listening. This course was created to help you succeed in your educational journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional podcasts, books, newsletters, and cool merchandise await. Let's get started. Culture sits at the heart of responsible artificial intelligence, shaping whether policies are lived out in practice or left on paper. Formal rules and governance frameworks can provide direction, but their success depends on the everyday norms and behaviors of people across the organization. A strong culture ensures that values such as fairness, transparency, and accountability guide decision-making at all levels. Without cultural reinforcement, even the best designed policies falter, as individuals find shortcuts or disregard principles in the name of speed. Shared values create the foundation for sustainable adoption of responsible AI, making responsibility not just a compliance requirement, but an organizational habit. Change management provides the structure for shifting from intention to action, helping employees understand why these values matter and how to embed them into their work. Culture matters because it directly influences daily choices. A developer deciding whether to flag a biased model output or a manager choosing to escalate a potential fairness issue will act based on the norms reinforced in their team. When ethical priorities are embedded in culture, individuals feel empowered to do the right thing and trust that leadership supports them. Conversely, when culture is weak, formal safeguards are easily undermined by shortcuts, secrecy, or indifference. Culture is not abstract. It is seen in how people behave, how they resolve conflicts, and what they reward or punish. Strong cultures build trust both inside and outside the organization, signaling to stakeholders that responsible AI principles are more than words, they are lived realities. Signs of weak AI culture often emerge in subtle but telling ways. One red flag is tolerance for bias or unsafe shortcuts, where teams accept errors as good enough if deadlines are met. A lack of transparency and reporting issues is another indicator, as problems are quietly ignored rather than surfaced. Absence of accountability compounds the issue, with no one clearly responsible when things go wrong. Secrecy around AI adoption, where systems are deployed without disclosure or consultation, further undermines trust. These weaknesses can quickly erode stakeholder confidence, exposing organizations to ethical failures, regulatory penalties, or reputational harm. Recognizing these warning signs early allows organizations to intervene before they escalate into systemic problems. Weak culture is not always visible at first, but its effects become clear when governance mechanisms consistently fail to prevent harm. Building a strong AI culture requires deliberate effort. Organizations must start by establishing clear values that align with both their mission and broader societal expectations. These values should be communicated consistently, showing how responsible AI connects to strategic goals rather than existing in isolation. Explicitly rewarding responsible practices reinforces that fairness and transparency are not just ideals, but recognized contributions to success. Training staff at all levels, from executives to frontline developers, ensures shared understanding and capacity to act on these values. Culture does not develop organically in complex organizations. It must be nurtured through communication, recognition, and reinforcement. By making responsibility a celebrated part of the organizational identity, companies set the stage for AI systems that are both innovative and trustworthy. Leadership plays a pivotal role in shaping culture. Executives must model responsible behavior, demonstrating through their actions that ethical considerations carry real weight. Providing resources and incentives signals that governance is not a burden but a priority worth investing in. Leaders must actively communicate priorities, making responsible AI a recurring theme in speeches, reports, and meetings. Perhaps most importantly, they must accept visible accountability for outcomes, showing that responsibility applies as much at the top as it does at lower levels. Without leadership commitment, culture-building efforts risk appearing symbolic or optional. When leaders set the tone through example and reinforcement, they empower employees to follow suit, creating a ripple effect that embeds responsibility into the entire organization. Embedding responsible AI into daily workflows transforms principles into practice, Policies must be translated into practical tools, such as checklists that guide ethical reviews or dashboards that highlight fairness metrics. Regular review of decisions for fairness ensures that responsible practices are not only aspirational but operational. Integrating these checks into lifecycle governance keeps responsibility present from design through deployment and monitoring. Reminders embedded in workflows reduce reliance on memory or goodwill, making responsible practices part of routine processes. When responsibility is woven into the everyday fabric of work, employees are less likely to see it as an add-on or obstacle. Instead, it becomes an integral element of producing high-quality, trustworthy AI systems. Training and awareness are indispensable tools for embedding responsible AI into organizational culture. Continuous education helps staff stay informed about emerging ethical risks, regulatory requirements, and governance practices. Simulations and case studies allow employees to practice ethical decision-making in realistic scenarios, preparing them to recognize and address dilemmas in their work. Awareness campaigns, through workshops, newsletters, or internal communications, keep responsible AI visible across teams, reinforcing that it is a shared responsibility rather than a specialized concern. Integrating responsible AI into onboarding ensures that new employees begin with an understanding of the organization's values and practices. Training and awareness cultivate not only knowledge but also confidence, enabling staff at every level to engage critically with AI systems and contribute to a culture of responsibility. Resistance to change is one of the most common obstacles in building a responsible AI culture. Teams may fear that new processes will slow down innovation or add layers of bureaucracy. Others may not fully understand the risks of biased or unsafe AI, dismissing governance as unnecessary. Skepticism can also arise when employees perceive responsible AI as compliance-driven rather than value-driven. Addressing this resistance requires dialogue rather than mandates. Explaining the purpose and benefits of responsible AI helps employees see its alignment with organizational goals. Listening to concerns creates trust and allows for adjustments that improve implementation. Overcoming resistance is not about eliminating skepticism, but about engaging with it, showing that responsibility enhances innovation rather than stifling it. Effective change management strategies give structure to cultural transformation. Clear communication of purpose and benefits provides direction, helping staff understand why governance is necessary and what it aims to achieve. Involving employees in shaping policies fosters ownership, making them stakeholders rather than passive recipients of change. Phased rollouts, with milestones and pilot projects, allow organizations to test approaches and build confidence gradually. Feedback loops create opportunities for continuous improvement, showing that governance adapts to realities rather than imposing rigid rules. These strategies reflect that culture change is not a one-time initiative, but an ongoing journey. By approaching it deliberately and inclusively, organizations increase the likelihood that responsible AI becomes deeply rooted and sustainable. Communication practices are central to embedding trust and transparency in change management. Explaining governance changes openly reduces uncertainty and fosters buy-in. Establishing channels for raising concerns ensures employees can speak up without fear of reprisal. Accessible documentation of standards makes expectations clear and prevents ambiguity. Inclusive discussion forums allow diverse voices to shape responsible AI practices, surfacing perspectives that leadership might otherwise overlook. Communication is not only about delivering information but also about listening, creating a dialogue where employees feel heard and valued. Strong communication practices help ensure that governance is seen not as an external imposition, but as a collaborative effort to uphold shared values. Incentives and recognition reinforce the behaviors that sustain a responsible AI culture. Compliance with governance processes should not be treated as invisible or assumed. It should be explicitly acknowledged and rewarded. Recognition programs can highlight individuals or teams who model ethical innovation, creating role models for the broader organization. Linking accountability to performance reviews ensures that responsibility is integrated into career progression, not treated as a side concern. Celebrating transparency and fairness through awards, shout-outs, or public recognition makes these values visible and desirable. Incentives need not always be financial. Symbolic gestures can be equally powerful in reinforcing cultural norms. By rewarding responsibility, organizations demonstrate that it is not only required but also valued. Cultural anchors give lasting weight to responsible AI values. Shared language helps employees talk about responsibility consistently, reducing ambiguity and making ethical considerations part of everyday conversations. Institutional stories, such as examples of how fairness was upheld in a difficult project, reinforce values through narrative, making them memorable and relatable. Symbols and rituals, like annual ethics days or visible dashboards of fairness metrics, create tangible reminders of commitments. Integration with broader ethics programs, such as corporate sustainability or diversity initiatives, situates responsible AI within the organization's larger mission. These anchors transform abstract principles into lived practices, ensuring that cultural commitments endure beyond individual projects or leadership changes. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Cross-functional alignment is crucial for sustaining a strong culture of responsible AI. Departments often operate with different priorities. Technical teams focus on performance, legal teams emphasize compliance, and HR or operations may concentrate on efficiency. Without alignment, these priorities can conflict, creating gaps where responsibility is weakened. Shared culture ensures that fairness, transparency, and accountability are seen as common values rather than competing objectives. Creating communities of practice brings together individuals across disciplines to share insights and coordinate efforts. Bridging technical and non-technical perspectives fosters mutual understanding, while leadership ensures that collaboration is not optional but expected. When cross-functional alignment is achieved, governance becomes holistic, and culture reinforces responsibility across every level of the organization. Measuring culture may seem intangible, but concrete methods exist to assess progress. Surveys can capture staff awareness of responsible AI principles and gauge whether employees feel empowered to raise concerns. Metrics on reporting and accountability, such as the number of escalated incidents or resolved issues, provide insight into whether processes are being used effectively. Tracking participation in training and awareness programs indicates engagement, while benchmarking against maturity models shows how far the organization has advanced compared to peers. Measurement is not about perfection but about learning, highlighting areas of strength and opportunities for growth. By treating culture as measurable, organizations signal that it is not abstract or symbolic. It is a tangible factor in responsible AI governance. Embedding accountability is essential for ensuring that cultural commitments translate into action. Assigning responsibility for culture programs prevents them from becoming side projects without ownership. Ethics committees or oversight boards provide structured forums for monitoring progress and making decisions. Transparent reporting to leadership keeps responsibility visible at the highest levels, reinforcing its importance. Monitoring progress openly, through dashboards or updates, builds trust and ensures that accountability is not hidden but shared. Embedding accountability in this way makes responsibility durable, protecting it from being sidelined during times of pressure or change. It ensures that culture programs remain active and effective, rather than fading once initial enthusiasm wanes. Sustaining change requires deliberate planning and persistence. Governance rituals, such as regular ethics reviews or check-ins, help institutionalize practices so they become habits rather than temporary initiatives. Programs must be refreshed periodically to remain relevant, adapting to new technologies, risks, and regulatory expectations. Momentum must also be maintained after the initial rollout, which often generates enthusiasm that can fade over time. Long-term planning ensures that resources are allocated consistently and that responsibility remains a strategic priority. Sustaining change is not about reaching a final destination, but about creating an enduring process of reflection and adaptation. By institutionalizing governance rituals and refreshing programs, organizations build resilience that can carry them through evolving challenges in AI adoption. The ethical implications of culture and change management are profound. Culture determines whether fairness, transparency, and accountability are lived values or neglected ideals. Organizations carry an obligation to support transparency and trust, ensuring that their culture prevents misuse and abuse of AI systems. A strong culture acts as a safeguard against harm, embedding responsibility into the decision-making fabric of the organization. Culture also aligns AI practices with the mission and purpose of the organization, ensuring that innovation supports rather than undermines strategic values. By recognizing culture as an ethical determinant, organizations treat responsibility as more than compliance. They treat it as a duty to stakeholders, society, and their own long-term integrity. Integration with governance ensures that cultural commitments do not remain isolated from formal management systems. When culture reinforces lifecycle governance, risk management, and compliance frameworks, it strengthens overall accountability. Shared accountability across functions prevents responsibility from being siloed, making it a collective rather than individual task. Documenting cultural progress through surveys, reports, or independent reviews provides transparency and helps align culture with external expectations, including audits. Culture and governance thus form a symbiotic relationship. Governance provides structure, while culture provides the motivation and shared norms that make that structure effective. Together, they create a durable foundation for responsible AI. Future directions suggest that culture and change management in responsible AI will become increasingly formalized. Maturity models for AI culture are emerging, offering structured ways to assess how deeply values like fairness and transparency are embedded across an organization. Professional certifications in AI ethics for staff may grow, equipping individuals with recognized credentials that reinforce expertise and accountability. Change management frameworks, long used in business transformation, will be more widely applied to the adoption of responsible AI, ensuring transitions are structured and measurable. Integration with environmental, social, and governance programs will also deepen, linking AI responsibility with broader commitments to sustainability and corporate citizenship. These trends reflect that culture is not a soft add-on, but a measurable, certifiable, and strategic dimension of governance. Organizational responsibilities play a decisive role in sustaining cultural change. Leadership must drive culture through example, modeling ethical behavior and reinforcing responsible practices at every opportunity. Allocating resources to change management ensures that cultural initiatives are not underfunded or symbolic. Providing channels for employee voice, such as hotlines or forums, allows concerns to be raised safely and constructively. Institutionalizing feedback mechanisms closes the loop, showing employees that their input influences policies and practices. These responsibilities demonstrate that culture is not the product of chance, but the result of deliberate leadership and investment. Organizations that take these responsibilities seriously build stronger, more resilient foundations for responsible AI. Practical takeaways emphasize the centrality of culture in responsible AI adoption. Policies and governance frameworks succeed only when supported by shared values and daily behaviors. Change management structures are essential for sustainability, guiding transitions in ways that build momentum and trust. Leadership incentives and communication are the levers that shape cultural adoption, turning principles into practice. Accountability ensures resilience, making responsibility a lasting feature rather than a temporary initiative. These takeaways remind us that culture is not secondary to governance, but its foundation. Without it, responsible AI remains fragile. With it, organizations build systems that are trustworthy and enduring. The forward outlook points to growing external interest in AI culture as part of governance. Culture audits may become more common, as regulators and independent bodies assess not just technical systems but also the organizational environments in which they operate. Employee engagement will receive more focus, recognizing that staff buy-in is critical to responsible adoption. Broader integration with corporate ethics programs will tie AI responsibility to existing commitments such as diversity, equity, and sustainability. External pressure for transparency will also increase, with stakeholders demanding evidence that cultural commitments are real and measurable. The outlook suggests that culture will move from being seen as an internal concern to a visible, externally validated component of responsible AI governance. The key points of this episode underscore the decisive role of culture and change management. Culture shapes whether responsible AI principles are lived or ignored, while change management provides the tools for making cultural shifts sustainable. Weak cultures allow bias, secrecy, and shortcuts to undermine governance, while strong cultures reinforce transparency, accountability, and fairness. Leadership, incentives, and communication form the building blocks of effective change. Embedding accountability ensures resilience, while integration with governance makes culture actionable. These points highlight that culture is not just a background factor, but a determinant of success in responsible AI. In conclusion, culture and change management are the forces that transform responsible AI from principle to practice. Leadership sets the tone, daily practices reinforce norms, and accountability ensures sustainability. Training, incentives, and communication strengthen adoption, while governance integration ties culture to measurable systems. Long-term resilience depends on sustaining momentum and refreshing programs to stay relevant. As external audits and regulatory attention increasingly focus on culture, organizations that invest early will be better prepared. Culture is not a soft dimension of governance but its foundation, ensuring that AI systems align with values as well as regulations. In our final episode, we will recap the series as a whole, consolidating lessons learned and charting the future of responsible AI. Thanks for tuning in to Bare Metal Cyber, your trusted source for cybersecurity educational materials, news, and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.